John's doing interviews with Fox News, CBS, whoever is with the mainstream media. He's doing interviews at this time, not podcasts, but interviews with the mainstream media, just on various subjects, whatever hot topics are happening, right? I remember he did an interview about Edward Snowden when he was stuck at the airport or something in Russia. And so this is what, our life was at the time. And John did a particular interview with Fox News. And when he was doing these interviews, he would always request that they not share where he was. Don't share the location. He'd always make sure to ask that. And everyone honored that up until this last interview that we did while we were still in Colorado.
These are all over like Skype or something?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Well, actually, we were going into the Focus of the Family building in Colorado Springs, and they had a studio set up. So we would go there and do remotely the interviews. And so this newscaster, as soon as he got on, he's like, oh, and we're here with John McAfee in Colorado Springs. So when that happened, John's pissed, just not pissed, but just pissed, whatever. Not pissed enough to do anything. So
right.
It's not a situation like that, but he's upset about it. And not long after that, things started happening in our neighborhood. And so he purchased a trailer that we kept in a trailer park, I guess for this eventuality, because he was doing a lot of things that didn't make sense to me, but he wanted to have somewhere where we could have, to go and hide out at. So the strange thing, the biggest strange thing I guess I could point out that happened was that when you get on your Wi-Fi in your neighborhood, it brings up all of the Wi-Fi that's in your area. And so a new Wi-Fi had popped up. It said FBI, right? And so I don't know if that was actually the FBI or whatever, but it was just a very clear, change. And then also, John decided that we would go and speak to the FBI, right? So I'm freaking out because I'm thinking like they're going to arrest me, because I've done all these things. I'm thinking John's going in there to snitch on me and now I'm going to go to prison. I didn't know what was going to happen, so we go in there and he's telling this agent about, his life and, why he thinks people are after him and what's happened and all of the things. And then they asked me to leave the office. So I leave the office and I'm sweating. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to prison. And I'm assuming it's because he's telling
right.
this agent about me, right? He just wasn't going to do it in front of me. And so, but we leave the office, right? And they come out and everything's like, okay, Mr. McAfee, if anything happens, we're here, whatever, but they didn't take it seriously, I don't think, or maybe they did. And maybe, I was then on being watched and, monitored by the FBI. I don't know. But from the outside appearance, it didn't look like they were taking it seriously. So, so we're living our life. We're kind of moving around a little bit. But I remember there was a time I was there. John was out of town, and I just happened to go to the store. And when I came out of the store, my pimp was standing at my car. And so I'm super freaked out because how does he know where I am? Because I haven't spoken to him. The only people that know where I am that could maybe relate to him or he could find out through is my family, because I was sending like MoneyGram, Western Union for my kids for school supplies, whatever they needed. Yeah. So I still to this day, I don't understand how he found me, how he knew that I was at the store, right? And how he's at my car. And so I remember, because John had said not to give him any money, what I did was I took a necklace he had given me and I took it to the pawn shop, and to give him money, I said, you have to leave. You can't be here. You have to leave, like now. I don't know if I made him aware of the FBI situation or not, but I just needed him to get away from me, because I didn't want John thinking that I was, part of anything that was now happening, right? Because I'm still sufficiently very spooked. I don't know what's happening, even though we're living like seemingly normal life, there's still this threat over us. And so Eventually we move and we're traveling. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to now another relevant part of the story, because there was just a lot that was happening in our normal regular life. There was I should mention this as well. There was a talk that John had done at CSSX or something in San Jose, and it was in the same year, 2013. He gave a keynote speech during there, and a woman from Belize had come, and because afterwards he's kind of meeting and greeting, shaking hands and things, and this woman comes and she says she's from Belize, and she hands him an envelope, a manila envelope, and there were some pictures in there of his properties or something. And so there was just these strange things that were always happening, people trying to give him drinks, or women trying to get him to come to their hotel room, giving key cards and all the things. So there was always a sense of danger, potential danger around us. And so I want to get to, we were in Denver. I'm not sure why we were in Denver, but I think because I was eventually about to fly out to California to see my kids, but I don't know why we were staying at the hotel. I think just because of everything that was happening since our location was outed. I think John just felt safer, getting some distance. And so we were there. There's like a kind of concentrated area of hotels. So we were at one of the hotels, and I remember there was like this road that went behind the hotels, and there was this pickup truck, because I was walking our dog Tequila, and this pickup truck was like stopping, going to this hotel, and then he would stop and sit for a little bit, and then he would move and stop and sit a little bit and move and stop. And so I told John about it, and he said he's trying to triangulate, could be possibly looking for us, was the assumption, obviously. And at this point, we weren't sure what was going on or how people were locating us, but it turned out to be the pickup truck. There was the low jack on the truck that we didn't realize. If someone steals your truck,
a tracker,
or yeah, if it's ever stolen,
right,
it could be found. So, I told John about that, and then, I catch my flight to go to California, and he called me like later that evening, and he's like, listen, I'm hiding out in the parking garage because, something's going on, but I'll let you know, when I'm okay. And so eventually he made his way to California to me, and he was like, listen, we got to go because I've got people following me, and, it's not safe for you to be here with your kids. So we left, and, we made our way to Arizona, where the girlfriend of our security that was living with us in Portland, she came and met with us, as well as John Poole, who was John's head of security for over 20 years. And so they met up with us. They had a rental car. And so we got in the rental car, John, myself, and the girlfriend. And his head of security took the pickup truck. And he, figured out, obviously it was the low jack, so he disabled it, whatever he needed to do that. And we went on about our way. But we were still being followed, in that area, in that general area of where, we thought we had lost people. And so, John and the girlfriend, they're chill, they're like, everything's fine, nobody's following us anymore. And I'm like, no, you guys are wrong. Like, we're still being followed. And we've not lost, because we're kind of like still in the same area, in the general area of where people were like kind of following us on the highway. And when I say following, I mean like, cars would get behind us, and, John would slow down, and slow down to like a ridiculously slow speed on the highway, like 30 miles an hour. And this car is still slowed down.
So they weren't being discreet. They were being obvious.
Yeah, they were being very obvious, but they were just spotters. There was no danger, immediate danger, right? They were just the spotters. Only. Do you
think that they were trying to intimidate John? Like, because they obviously it was clear, right? They weren't doing a very good job of being discreet. So do you think maybe they were just trying to intimidate him and scare him, let him know like you're being watched?
Yeah, possibly. And also maybe to just keep an eye until the danger could get there. Yeah. Right. Until the muscle of the heavies could get there, and do what they needed to do. Right.
Right.
And so So, like I said, I told John, people were still being followed. At the time, the girlfriend was driving. I said, okay, listen, I'll calm down if you get in the driver's seat, John. I need you to drive, because I knew he could handle himself behind the wheel. I said, I need you to drive and I'll be cool. And so we're driving and we're getting ready to, we were actually almost out of gas because the gas light was on. I told John, I said, we should probably get some gas. I said, because we're not, we're still being followed, so let's stop and get gas. He's like, no, we'll be fine. I was like, okay. I said, if this white pickup truck that you see right here at the stoplight, if it turns when we turn, then we're still being followed, okay? And so sure enough, that pickup truck turned with us. And so John still, he wants to make sure, so he does this thing. He slows way down. They slow way down. He speeds up. They speed up. So they're matching speed with us. Eventually, we get up to like over 100 miles an hour. We're in a Ford Focus, the little hatchback thing. And we're like sort of hydroplaning on the road because it was really crazy how fast we were going. Eventually, they slowed down. But we kept going at the same speed until we got into a town, because it was like a 2-lane highway, and you're now in between towns, right? And so eventually we slowed down. Once we got into town, we looked for a gas station, found one, and then we proceeded to leave town. But John was like, he was going slow, and I was like, hurry up, we need to get out of here. He's like, no, I got this now, and he's very slowly drove out of town just to not draw attention, and so we were able to get out of that situation, and we made it to Texas, and that's where his head of security met us again. John ended up shaving his beard off, and he looked so drastically different without his beard.
I've never seen him without the goatee.
Yeah. He was so insecure about it. I was like, it's fine. You got to do what you got to do.
Did he have a weak chin? Is that why he kept the goatee?
No, he didn't have a weak chin. Not at all. But I think it was just so much a part of his identity, that it just felt weird without it. And he shaved that because, I'm me. Right, there's nothing I could do to look not like me, right? So you spot me, you're spotting him, right? Was the assumption. And so when we left the hotel room, we left separately. I came down first, so all of the people, you could see them, they're kind of watching me. They're looking now for John. Where's John? And so I went and get in the pickup truck, and John goes up to these people, assuming these are the people looking for us, and he's like talking to them in this country accent. What do you guys think about this Texas weather? It's really weird. And so, but they didn't pick up on it, and he came and got in the pickup truck and we left. Wow. And so we were able to get, out of that situation, and we ended up going to Tennessee, where his head of security was living.